This is the lesson for section 4.2, proportions. A proportion is a comparison of two ratios. So I think our last section, 4.1, was ratios. Now we're putting those together. We're solving an equation for those proportions. So let's look at these problems. Determine whether the following proportion is true or false. I'm going to show you two ways to do this, okay? So first way is to cross multiply, okay? So what you'll do is you'll go across 3 times 16, okay? That's, oh my goodness, 48 is going to go over here. I don't know why my pen just turned to purple, but anyway. And then you cross multiply the other direction, 6 times 8, which is also 48. And since those two numbers are equal, then the values of those proportions, 3/8 is equal to 6/16. So the answer here is true. Let me show you a couple other ways to do it actually. Okay, so 3/8 equals 6/16. We could reduce 6/16. 6 and 16 are both divisible by 2. So if we reduce these by 2, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. So we get 3/8, which is exactly like this, the first fraction. So that would be true. Now, the third way to do this is to put it in your calculator and compare the decimals, okay? So 3 divided by 8 is 0.375. So if I put these both in my calculator and I just compare the decimals, on the left, 3 divided by 8 is 0.375, and then I would put 6 divided by 16 in my calculator, and I'm also getting 0.375. So these are equal. So that's 3 ways to determine if they're equal. Number 1, cross multiply. If the cross products are equal, then the fractions are equal. Number 2, try to reduce and see if you can get them to actually reduce to the same number. And then number 3, compare the decimals. Okay, I'm going to skip that one. Let's go to this one down here, number 4. Okay, this one is a little bit more complicated because I'm not as familiar with these in terms of reducing or something like that. So I'm going to cross multiply here. So we've already had a unit on decimals. 11.1 times 6.8 is 75.48. So 75.48 is what I got when I went from left to right. Now I'll go from right to left. So 20.4 times, is that a 3.2 or a 3.7? Let's see if I can, I can't read. I think it's 3.7. I hope so. I'm getting 75.48 over there as well, 75.48. So these are equal. This is also a true statement. Okay, we'll try one more. I hope we get to one that's false. Let's do this, these mixed numbers. We've also had a unit on mixed numbers, so we know how to use our calculator. Calculator manipulation is so incredibly important. So 2 3/4 times 4 9/14. I just realized that the answers are to the right, so this was going to be true also. I'm getting 12 43/56 when I go from left to right. Now I'll go from right to left. 1 3/8 times 9 2/7 is also 12 43/56. So that one is also true. Okay. Another way to do it would be to compare your fractions. So, well, put them in the calculator and compare them as decimals. So let's go up here. Let me do this one a different way. Let's go back up here. So what I could have done up here is I could have put 11.1 divided by 3.7 in my calculator. Instead of cross multiplying, I could have divided this out, and I'm going to get 3. Yep. And then I would have done the same thing over here, 20.4 divided by 6.8. Again, we've already had our unit on decimals. So I get 3 as well. So that's 2 different ways to do those particular problems, okay? I'm going to pause this and get back to the next section. Okay, the next section is solving proportions with an unknown value. So in other words, we're going to solve these equations for x, okay? I'm going to start with let's start with number 9, okay? So we have 20 over 60 equals 6 over x. What you're going to do here is you're going to cross multiply. So 20 times x, we'll put that to the right. 20 times x is 20x. Then we're going to multiply in the opposite direction. 6 times 60, that's 360. And then in between there, we have to put the equal to. This is called cross multiplication. You're going to cross multiply. Literally, you're making your multiplication go across each other. And then the opposite of multiplying by 20 is dividing. So we would divide both sides by 20. And these 20s cancel. So 20 divided by 20 cancels. And we have 360 divided by 20. Your zeros would cancel. 36 divided by 2 is 18. So the answer is 18. Okay? I think I'll go up to the top. Let's do one up here. So this one is the same way. X is in a different position. So x times, I believe that's 222. So that'll be 222x. We cross multiply the opposite direction. So 66 times 37 is 2,442. And you put an equal to in between the cross multiplication. Okay, so your left-hand side and your right-hand side, there's an equal in between. We're going to divide both sides by 222. The opposite of multiplying by 222 is dividing. So we're going to do the inverse operation. And when we divide that out, divided by, I know the answer is there, but you're going to get 11. X equals 11. So that's how you would cross multiply. Okay, let's try 11 and 12. You have to write a proportion here. And what is uber important is that your units on the top have to match your units on the bottom. So for number 11, you're talking about driving to your uncle's house. It's 592 miles, and the distance to Disneyland is 37 miles. If it took 16 hours to drive to your uncle's house, how long would it take you to drive to Disneyland? Okay, so we're going to set up a proportion. I'm going to put whoops, I don't know what that was. I'm going to put miles on the top, and I'm going to put hours on the bottom. Now, what's important is that on the other side, I have to set up the proportion in the same way. So miles has to go on the top and hours on the bottom. Okay, so let's fill in this particular fraction is the first one about going to your uncle's house. So you can go to your uncle's house, which is 592 miles away, and that took you 16 hours. How long would it take you to drive to Disneyland if Disneyland is 37 miles? Now, miles goes on top. We already had our labels. It's very important that you put your words down before you put your numbers. This class is called quantitative literacy, and words are very, very, very important. So now we're going to use our same strategy. We're going to cross multiply 592 times x, and then we're going to go this direction. We put an equal in the middle, 16 times 37, which is 592. And then the opposite of multiplying by 592 is dividing. So we'll divide both sides by 592. This side cancels, and we're left with x equals 1. Okay, for the next few, I'm going to get them set up for you, and I want you to practice. So Alex is investing his money. He thinks that you should make $14 for every 100 he invests. How much does he expect to make on an investment of $4,300? Okay, let me pause this for a second. Okay, I left and came back, and I don't know what is wrong with my camera, but clearly it's not showing me. All right, let's continue on where I was. Number 12, Alex is investing his money. He thinks he should make $14 for every 100 he invests. Okay, so Alan is thinking, these are the two kind of categories we want to talk about. What will he make versus what will he invest? Now, again, when you set up a proportion, whatever you put on the top, what is wrong with my camera? That's bothering me. Okay, well, anyway, I'm still here. Whatever you put on the top has to go on the top on both sides, and whatever you put on the bottom has to go in the bottom. So our numerator has to match, make and make, invest and invest. So he thinks he should make $14 for every $100 that he invests. How much does he expect to make? Okay, we don't know how much he's going to make, so we put an X, if he's going to invest $4,300. This is how you set up your proportion. To solve a proportion, we're going to cross multiply. Okay, so 14 times 4,300 is 60,200. 60,200. We're talking about money here. All right, then I cross multiply in the other direction from left to right. So 100 times x is going to give me 100x. We're talking about money here. And you're getting rid of the 100. You want to solve for x. The opposite of multiplying by 100 is dividing by 100. Okay, this is going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. Several ways to think about that, but the answer is $620. $620 is how much he should expect to make on an investment of $4,300. All right, let's look at the last page. Number 13 is just a cross multiplication. So you're going to go y times 20, which is 20y, 16 times 3, which is 48. We're solving for y, so we divide both sides by 20. And the answer is 48 over 20. Now, notice that it says in simplest form. What that means is that your answer must be reduced. You can use your calculator to reduce, but you can also just use your divisibility rules. So 48 is divisible by 4. 20 is also divisible by 4. 48 divided by 4 is 12, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. So that's where we get 12/5. Number 14 is similar, except for you have a fraction, but I want to get down here to some more of these where you have to set it up yourself. An English teacher must read and grade 30 essays, okay? If it takes the teacher 23 minutes to read and grade 6, okay, so here's the thing we're talking about. How many minutes it takes the lady to grade, or it could be a male, I should say. Okay, how many minutes does it take the English teacher to read and grade the papers? Now, your numerators have to match. So if I put minutes on the top here, minutes has to be on the top there. Grade on the bottom, grade on the bottom. So if it takes her 23 minutes to read and grade 6 essays, how much time will he, it's a male, need to grade all 30? So he has a total of 30 essays to grade, and the question is, how long will that take? So I've got it set up for you. What you would do to complete this is you will cross multiply. Okay, I want to try to get all of these set up before my timer goes off. Okay, 1 dozen eggs cost $2.29. The question is, how much would 3 dozen eggs cost? So we don't know. We put an X in the denominator. Notice our cost is in the bottom. The number of dozen or the dozens is in the top. Dozen in the top, dozen in the top. Cost in the bottom, cost in the bottom. Once again, you will cross multiply here to solve this. And that's that one. Let's get the next one set up. Number 17. Oh, I'm almost out of time. If a cat normally catches 4 mice in 1 day, how many mice would you expect to catch in 3 days? So again, mice is on the top, days are on the bottom. We'll cross multiply there. 1 inch represents 36 miles. How many miles does 4 1/4 inch represent? So our miles are on the bottom, and we don't know that, so we put an X. Try to get one more set up before my time runs out. Okay, 5 cups of flour make 30 biscuits. How much is needed to make 14 biscuits? So biscuits is on the bottom, cups of flour is on the top. We don't know how many cups of flour, so we put an X, and then you'll cross multiply. So that's my video for proportions.